The treacherous waters of the River Dee claimed the life of 16-year-old Frank Very. Rescue teams found his body after a 7-hour search. The promising boxer had gone into the water as temperatures hit 32 degrees. His tragic death is by no means an isolated incident. Charities like the Royal National Lifeboat Institution claim a rise in staycations has led to an increase in people heading to the coast.
If you're going to go to the beach, make it a life-guarded beach. And if you're going to swim on that beach, swim between the red and yellow flags. That will give you the maximum chance of a lifeguard observing what you're doing. If you get a difficulty, then getting help on its way to you.
The RNLI's Float to Live campaign warns people not to panic if they get into trouble, even if they can't swim. The rise in the number of deaths has led the United Nations to launch its first campaign to prevent drownings. Globally, more than 230,000 people died in the water in 2019.
Well, earlier I spoke to Dr. David Meddings, who's the World Health Organization's expert on drowning. And I began by asking him which countries were most affected.
Within that overall 236,000 estimate, over 90% are within low and middle income countries. The two regions of the Western Pacific region and the Southeast Asia region collectively account for just over 60% of drowning worldwide. The highest rates are located within the Western Pacific, but the second highest rates are located within the African region. And there is an interesting difference in terms of the demographics involved, whereas in Asia and Western Pacific regions, we see primarily children, relatively young children being affected principally. Within the African region, it appears to be a slightly older demographic and more linked to the subsistence fishing industry.
And just take us through the idea behind an International Drowning Prevention Day and the UN recognition. Is the idea to raise awareness and also to force governments to take action, really?
The big thing that's taken place over the last couple of months is the passage within the United Nations of a General Assembly resolution addressing global drowning prevention. And within that resolution, there is a proclamation of World Drowning Prevention Day every July the 25th. That day in and of itself is a really useful thing because it allows us to focus minds and to raise awareness about the issue. And as you say, to sort of call for government action and engagement. But the resolution itself is a much more comprehensive document, and it really points out the multi-sectoral links that drowning has with a wide range of different sectors, and it encourages the cooperation across the UN sectors to deal with the problem.
Why has it taken so long, though, to get this kind of international focus on the subject?
Probably the big answer really is that public health is changing. Public health, I think, in most people's minds has been pretty closely linked with infectious disease, and infectious disease remain very important threats. You just have to look at the COVID epidemic to appreciate that. However, if you look globally at causes of mortality, if you look at the most recent estimates from the Global Health Estimates 2019, which is our most recent data, that actually shows that just under 20% of deaths worldwide now are attributable to infectious causes, and fully 80% are due to other causes, non-communicable diseases and things like injury, which include drowning. But I just want to point out that it's not only in low and middle income countries. If you look at high income countries, drowning or mortality in 1 to 4 year old children, drowning is the second leading cause of death for that age group in places like Australia, New Zealand, the USA, Switzerland. And in many low and middle income countries, it would be either number 1, 2, or 3 for that same age group.
David Meddings, thank you very much for joining us.
Great pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.